I wonder if it's possible that people's spirits are so high coming out of it because they're back working and they're back outside and everything's good that people are just like, okay, whew, whatever, we're back to normal. Vote for Trump. I don't care. Like, oh, I'm just glad that we made it. That would be something that would really worry me coming into the election season. Okay, well, hey, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. You want to introduce yourself, everybody?
Yep, my name is Nick Rubando. I'm the Democratic nominee for United States Congress in Ohio's 5th District. So that's in Northwest Ohio. Toledo is the biggest city, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, and then as I understand it, you guys just won your primary a few days ago, right?
That is correct. Yeah, we had our primary on Tuesday. We won. It was a competitive three-way race. We came away with 50% of the vote, which we're really excited about. And we're moving onward to November.
That's cool. What so I was just looking up at the votes in the primaries, and I see there's a pretty big hurdle to overcome. Do you feel pretty optimistic about the general race, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an uphill battle. I mean, we're taking on a Republican incumbent. He's been in there for a long time. But with that being said, in some of the key counties that we're going to need to win, these are like pivot counties. So these are places that were Obama in '08 and 12 and then pivoted and voted for Donald Trump. This is a demographic we know we're going to need to recapture. But in the primary, we had really high margins of victory in these counties. And we also saw Democratic turnout really boost. So that is very promising for what we need to win in November. So yeah, man, we're looking forward to it.
Cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
In terms of, so we spoke a little bit, or I communicated with your campaign guy a little bit in terms of the direction you wanted
Sure.
the conversation to go. Wait, I hear a little bit of an echo. Can you hear that? Or can you turn the speakers down just a tad so that I can?
I cannot, but I'll turn the speakers down a little
Yeah,
bit.
just a little bit. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, this is perfect. In terms of the other candidates you were running against, you sell yourself as more kind of saying establishment sounds so bad. Where do you see yourself falling on like the Democratic spectrum right now? Like in terms of like with the progressive wing being like more to the left, and then kind of the establishment normal Dems being like in the center. Like where do you see yourself falling on that
Yeah,
spectrum?
I mean, I definitely wouldn't say establishment. I mean, our campaign has been endorsed by an organization called Brand New Congress,
Hmm.
which was very instrumental in the rise of AOC in her race in 2018. And, they endorsed our candidacy because we are we're in it for Medicare for all, for Green New Deal, for getting big money out of politics. But with that being said, I mean, we were endorsed by the Wood County Democratic Party and the Lucas County Democratic Party, which are the two largest counties in our district. So on that front, I guess you could say that our campaign was a little bit more establishment, but we still had a very progressive message. I think the cool thing about what we're trying to do here is that mainstream, I guess, establishment Democrats look to our campaign and see a lot of hope because they see that we're running a campaign the right way, that we're actually raising money, that we're knocking doors and putting in the work. But then progressives see our campaign and see the policies that we're actually pushing for, and because of that, it's kind of the perfect mixture, I believe, of a campaign that's focused on progressive policy issues, but still running a campaign the right way and is appeals to people who seem more establishment as well.
What are some of the challenges right now of trying to run a responsible but effective ground game with like the coronavirus and everything? That seems like a difficult thing to balance.
Yeah, I mean, our ground game is basically non-existent right now, which was tough because that was one of our biggest strong suits. I mean, we had a ton of really awesome volunteers who would come at and meet with us, and we'd go out and door knock. When coronavirus was starting to occur, what we thought we would do was actually, with the mailers that we would put on people's doors, we gave information about COVID-19, kind of like, these are symptoms, these are kind of best practices for like staying 6 feet away, washing your hands. So we tried to keep people informed as much as possible. But, right now we're all working remotely. Our team is kind of like all over the place. We're just all doing Zoom calls together. So, we're definitely working from home, ensuring that we're social distancing, and really we've transitioned into digital. That's why things like this are so extremely important for us, and why
Hmm.
we appreciate the opportunity, because like we're just looking for different ways to get our message out there where we can't really hold town halls or knock doors or do traditional kind of campaigning, if you will.
For the voters in the district that you're working in, is digital campaigning that effective? Do you have to worry about like the fact that like older viewers tend to be the ones that get out and vote and are probably a little bit more disconnected from online campaigning than otherwise? Or
Totally. I mean, we've definitely seen our older demographic. I mean, they skew to Facebook.
mm-hmm.
So, when we're doing our large scale like digital town halls, we usually host them on Facebook, just because we think that that is where, that demographic is really living on social media right now. And, I think that we have seen an uptick of people who, maybe aren't always traditionally going on social media, gravitating towards those platforms because they're inside and they really have nothing else to do. So that is encouraging, but we're also utilizing Instagram Live, Twitter Live, just to really ensure that we're trying to touch as many bases as possible, and then going on kind of like new media outlets like this.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, so this is kind of something that a lot of people are thinking about right now. It's a little bit dark, but with the COVID-19 stuff and or the coronavirus stuff and everything going on, what happens as we draw closer to the election? Like if this goes like a month or two or three, like further out, if rivals start to campaign a little bit more, how do you factor that into your decision making? Like, and from a health point of view, we would like to say, like, well, we're going to do the most responsible thing. We're going to do what we have to do, whatever's being recommended. But if your opponents are out there and you're not, you're kind of just ceding that ground to them. How do you factor, or how do you weigh decisions like that?
Yeah, that's a really important point, and I think it's we're kind of already seeing this now with like a lot of people in the Republican Party saying like, oh, you don't need to social distance and you can go outside and it's okay, and like we need to open stuff back up with like very little regard to people's health. So I can understand where you're coming from. I mean, what we've been really trying to do, and we think is going to be important going forward, is invest really heavily in vote by mail and in understanding how people know how to vote by mail.
Mm-hmm.
Cool thing about that is that, when these people are requesting absentee ballots, we then can reach out to the Board of Election and find out who's requesting these absentee ballots. So right now, our push is to really drive vote by mail and ensure that people feel very comfortable with that. Our primary election was actually exclusively vote by mail. And I think in November, we're really to ensure the safety of like voting for all of America, we're going to really need to have a robust vote by mail program. I hope that Congress kind of passes something like that in the next relief bill to ensure that every state has the ability to invest in vote by mail, because I think that will really level the playing field. It will allow us to be able to vote safely, but also to know who is going to vote and be able to reach out to those individuals without having to compromise the safety of going out and knocking on doors.
Mm-hmm. What exactly got you into trying to run for Congress? Have you ever held any prior political positions? And like, what was the big drive for you to be like, this is something that I want to do. I want to run for Congress because I think I can make a difference in some area.
I appreciate you asking that question. I kind of got into politics when I was in college. At that time, I was in college in 2008, and it was the financial crisis. And unfortunately, my father lost his job. And because of that, my family lost their health insurance. And this was before Barack Obama passed the Affordable Care Act. And I saw my mom struggle to find affordable healthcare coverage as a woman with a pre-existing condition. So, when Obama started talking about bringing healthcare coverage to millions of Americans, I got really excited. I went to Indiana University. So I was at that campus and I became a student volunteer. And we were registering student voters and really building a movement on that campus. And we actually flipped the state of Indiana from red to blue for the first time in nearly 50 years in 2008. And that's kind of how I got my start in politics. And then, subsequently, Barack, of course, won. He passed the Affordable Care Act, and I saw my mom get health insurance, which was amazing. It really showed how, small individual actions can lead to, improving the lives of millions of Americans. And after college, I moved out to California. I was in LA. I was working for a tech startup out there, but I was working in like city council races and some congressional races. And then in 18, I actually worked on a congressional race in California's 25th district as a field organizer. and I helped flip that seat from red to blue. And, at the same time, I was, watching AOC and I was following along with her stories on Instagram. And, you know, the way that she kind of, I guess, really democratized the whole process, like really showed you from beginning to end on her stories, like, this is how I did it. I'm just a normal person. Normal people can do this. And not only can they do it, they should do it, because normal people are the ones who will actually be advocating for individuals who like understand what it's like to work an hourly wage job or struggle to find health insurance. And, because of that, I was like, man, I really want to get more involved in politics. And again, as I was saying, I was out in California, and that state's very blue. We had just flipped a whole bunch of House seats. I didn't know how much more work we could do out there. So I actually decided to move back to my hometown in Ohio, because I know how important Ohio is to politics here in the United States, especially during a presidential election. This is a battleground state, and the way the Electoral College is set up, states like Ohio just have more really power and presence, especially on a presidential election. So I got back here. I started working with some, young Democrat groups, some advocacy groups, especially for protecting Lake Erie, which is the large Great Lake that we have in this district.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to learn that no one was really stepping up and wanting to run against our current Republican congressman. They thought that the district was too gerrymandered, that he like raised too much money, and it was just, it was a fool's errand. It was foolish to run. And I've never been one to back down from a challenge. And I had a lot of people from the community saying, Nick, why don't you do it, man? You've worked on campaigns in the past, like you're passionate about this. Why don't you just step up to the plate? And because of that, with encouragement from the community, I decided to take it on, and we've since just really hit the ground running. And that's what kind of inspired me to run. And that's really why we're in this, to advocate for working people.
Cool. So this is the first like public office of any kind then you've tried to run a campaign for?
Yeah, I'm a first-time candidate. I've worked on campaigns in the past, but myself, a first-time candidate.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of like large issues, I know that you brought up healthcare. What are like 2 or 3 of like the things that you think are the most important issues that you could have a voice on when it comes to congressional voting?
Yeah, I mean, again, like healthcare is extremely important. I do think we need to have a universal healthcare system, especially now when we see 26 million Americans losing their jobs.
At
like
least,
we should
yeah.
Healthcare tied to our occupation. It stifles creativity. It just doesn't make any sense. So that is something that I definitely want to work towards. Environmental protections is also something extremely important. Like I was saying, we have Lake Erie here in our district, and every summer it actually turns green because we have toxic algal blooms that occur in the lake. And a couple years ago, the water was so bad we couldn't even drink it. That is, it was coming out of our faucets. And our whole district is in the Lake Erie watershed. So all of us are getting our water from Lake Erie. And, if we can't drink the fresh water that's coming out of the lake, this isn't a Republican issue or Democratic issue. This is a human issue. I mean, we all need fresh water to drink.
Mm-hmm.
I think, regardless of how we want to decide those, I think we're not going to really get anything done until we focus in and get big money out of politics. I think that is the overarching issue that is stifling so much progress that we're trying to make. And just as like a quick example of this, so our current representative, his name's Bob Latta, he sits on the Energy and Commerce Committee in Washington. So amongst other things, he's supposed to be regulating the oil and gas industry and the pharmaceutical industry. And yet when you look at who's actually donating to his campaign, he's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from these exact same industries that he's supposed to be regulating. So, our state is top 2 in opioid-related deaths. And yet Bob Latta is getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from opioid manufacturers each year to get reelected. And it's like, we wonder why there's been no real progress on the opioid epidemic. Well, it's because the people who are in power, who are supposed to be regulating these companies, are also getting paid by these companies. And until we actually end that really corporate profiting by our politicians, I don't think we're going to get any really positive change that's going to come out of Washington.
As somebody that's running to work in Congress from Ohio, do you think there are like unique concerns that you have about your state that you take with you on a national level? So maybe things that Democrats in general aren't as interested in that are more specific to Ohio, or maybe things that would even make you break sometimes from party lines to like be concerned about your constituents in Ohio?
Well, I mean, one thing that's not always, looked at as like a Democratic issue is, Ohio's fifth district is actually the largest agricultural district in all of Ohio. So we have a lot of people in the agricultural industry here, and they need someone to advocate for them. And, a lot of times you think of agricultural industry or people in the farming community as pretty reliably Republican. But I think that a lot of what the Democratic Party and what we can do as representatives is really advocate for these individuals. I think one of the biggest things right now that's happening is we have these large-scale factory farms that are consolidating and buying up family farms and really stifling these family farms. And we've seen family farm bankruptcies go up 25%. And I think that this issue is not normally one that comes up in a lot of like progressive Democratic platforms, but is something that we really need to look at because, I think having a robust food industry is really important, especially when it comes to, hunger. We have a whole host of cities that are really struggling with individuals who are not getting enough food every day. And then we also have a farming industry that's got a surplus of food. And I think we need to really mirror these two so that we can have programs in inner cities that are really, buying some of this excess food from farmers and ensuring that everyone is fed in this country, because there's no reason that we're in a huge industrial, one of the the richest countries in the world, and we have people who are going to bed hungry. It's crazy.
Where do you think are some places that you could make a difference when it comes to negotiating stuff like this? Like, is there stuff that you see when it comes to issues related to, say, agriculture? Do you think there are some easy-ish solutions? Obviously, solving the whole problem of, consolidated family farms into big business versus whatever, and then farm subsidies. Not to ask you to solve everything, but are there a few easy points where you're like, this is something that just obviously shouldn't be happening, or this is something that obviously needs to change that I think I can get like political support for to do something about?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the things that I think should be the easiest thing is, so right now there were stream protection laws in place that the Obama administration had put into place to ensure that companies couldn't dump waste into streams. Again, this is what's really causing these toxic algal blooms in Lake Erie. The Trump administration rolled back these stream protection laws, which makes it easier for these factory farms to dump their waste into tributaries that then go into the river, that then go into the lake. I think it would be extremely easy to get the EPA to put back these stream protection laws back into place to ensure that we can clean up Lake Erie, as well as millions of lakes and rivers and tributaries all throughout the United States, where, again, this is where our drinking water is coming from. So, these are stream protection laws that have already been put in place that we have seen work, that were then stripped away by the Trump administration, the Republican Party. And since then, we've seen our drinking water become more toxic. So I think that that's a very easy regulation that we could, put back into place to ensure that we have clean drinking water.
Is ultimate? I don't know how this works in terms of how you guys assign yourselves to committees, but ultimately, would you want to see yourself be on like? It's like the energy subcommittee or the energy committee on climate change or whatever in the House to work on issues like this? Is this like a pretty big thing that you would like to spend time on?
Yeah, totally. Like I was saying, Bob Latta is on the Energy and Commerce Committee. So that's a committee that I think I could definitely, really take his place on. I think it's also extremely important because, this committee would deal with subsidies for green energy, which is another amazing opportunity that I think we have here in Ohio. We actually have a solar panel, the largest solar panel plant in all of North America, right in an area called Perrysburg, Ohio, which manufactures solar panels. We could do that all throughout this district. We also have an amazing opportunity to create wind farms and wind turbines. Right now, we're utilizing less than 1% of our potential wind energy in our state. And this could be a huge economic driver for us. And we've seen it as a huge economic driver for other states, specifically red states like Texas. The state that actually has the most wind farms in it is Texas.
Mhm.
And this is a state that, of course, is seen as a big oil state, but they realize the economic opportunity that investing in alternative energy really has. I think we could do that here in our district and all throughout the country to not only clean up our environment, but also have an economically reliable alternative energy source.
How do you respond to concerns from so for Ohio, producing coal is like a pretty big part of your guys' economy. How do you respond to concerns from like labor groups or from fossil fuel workers that are like, okay, well, you want to come in and start making solar panels and do wind energy? Well, what about our jobs? Like, what are we going to do about that?
Sure. Yeah, I completely understand that. And I actually had a lunch meeting with the pipe fitters union a couple days ago. And, their big thing is that they make a lot of the pipes for, oil extraction, and, they work with the coal industry as well. And they were saying like, hey, look, man, if we move away from fossil fuels, like this is a lot of good union jobs that are going to go away. But with that being said, they are also well aware that this industry is polluting and killing our planet, and realize that this can't go on. That we do need to find another alternative energy source. And I think their biggest issue is, hey, we want a seat at the table. Like we want to know that if we're moving towards hydropower, that we can be making the pipes that are creating hydropower plants. And so that's why we have taken it upon our campaign to work really well hand in hand with labor unions to ensure that if we are making changes to create the progress we need, that these labor unions will have a seat at the table so that they don't feel left out in the process, so that whatever the transition is, it becomes just for them. And if we need to have job training programs so that they can ensure that they are well fitted for these positions that are opening up, then that's what we're going to need to do. But we just have to make sure that they have a seat at the table and they feel well represented.
Mm-hmm. People always ask me to ask people this. Do you have a stance or an opinion on nuclear power? Is that something that does Ohio have any nuclear reactors, or do you guys look into that at all? Or?
We do have a very large nuclear power plant, David Bessie, in our area. Mm-hmm. And the scary thing about that is, again, the Trump administration has rolled back really like regulations on these nuclear power plants in specific regards to safety checks for these. Which is extremely problematic because, if one of these nuclear reactors cracks and, the material gets out, it's very close to very large amount of communities. And that's a problem. Like we need to have strong EPA protections and regulations on these nuclear power plants. I personally do not think we should be making any new nuclear power plants. I would like to see us moving into other forms of alternative energy to ensure our departure from fossil fuels.
Okay. There's more we can go into it, but that's okay. So with the election coming up, you said you feel as comfortable, I guess, as you can going into the general. Is your opponent taking it very seriously? Do you know, like, are they like worried? Have they been doing a lot of campaigning, a lot of fundraising? Are they expecting to kind of just coast through the election, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about Bob Latta is that he's a very absentee leader. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that I saw an opportunity to take him on was the fact that, he never holds any town halls. He never really comes out into the district. He's got a very small social media presence and small digital media following. I didn't know at the time how important that would be, but I think it's extremely important now. And, part of the reason that I thought, we can do this, we can win this, is because I saw an opportunity where this is really an absentee leader. So far it's been much of the same. He's still been pretty absent. He hasn't really stepped up to the plate. I think, especially during this crisis, people are really looking to our leaders right now to, keep them informed and ensure that people feel safe, because that they have strong leadership that they know that they can go to ask questions, like, hey, how do I file for unemployment, or how do I apply for this PPP loan? We have not really seen that out of Latta yet. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I hope he thinks he can just slide by and doesn't take this seriously at all and doesn't do anything. But we'll see. I mean, we're still going to run our race. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to just focus on what we're doing and focus on, the pathway to victory that we've laid. I mean, obviously, if he comes out with an attack ad, we're going to respond, and we'll ensure that we're a flexible campaign and an agile campaign. But I think right now we have a strong pathway to victory, a strong plan that we're just going to follow and ensure our success.
Do you have a pretty good relationship, like working relationship with like the actual Democratic establishment? Like, do you guys get help for fundraising from anybody within the party, or do you have like good lines of communication there? Or do you kind of run everything on your own because it's seen as like I don't know if yours is like seen as like a lost district where it's not worth investing in, or yeah, how do those relationships work?
Yeah. So the local Democratic parties have been extremely cool because I think that they realized early on that, we are a strong campaign, that we mean business, that we're doing this the right way. And because of that, we got some early endorsements. We run our campaign out of what is known as the Wood County. It's here in Bowling Green, which is where Bowling Green State University is. And we actually run our campaign, or we used to, out of the Wood County Democratic office. So, I guess that's kind of pretty establishment right there. And, I have a good relationship with the Ohio Democratic Party, but I think that they were really waiting to see what we did in the primary. I mean, I think that they were looking at us as a first-time candidate who kind of came out of nowhere, and they're like, oh, who is this guy? Like, let's pump the brakes before we invest in this campaign. We hope that they help us out, but we're not expecting it. We're expecting to do this ourselves. With that being said, we have reached out to a lot of elected officials in the area and have gotten a really solid response, just because I think that they realize how hard we're working and how serious we are. I had an amazing conversation with Congresswoman Marsha Fudge the other day, who is a congresswoman out in the Cleveland area. She was extremely helpful, offered a lot of tips. We've been in touch with not Paul Ryan, Tim Ryan's campaign in Youngstown. Yeah. No, we just got Paul Ryan on speed dial. No big deal.
Those fights with Trump, I guess, really had a negative impact on me.
And then, and Sherrod Brown, who's our senator here, his team has been extremely helpful as well. And we hope to continue to build these relationships and ensure that we work with them. Because I think all of us have a single goal here, which is to flip Ohio blue in November. Mm-hmm.
So in your district, when I think my understanding is your district went +10 for Bob in the last election cycle. So it's an uphill, definitely battle. Are you looking at for the primary source of a potential victory? Would you be looking at just increasing or mobilizing Democratic voters there, or is the goal to get all the moderates on your side, or would you have to actually flip like Republican voters over to your side? Depending on which way you're looking to increase your voter base, what do you think is like the most effective way to do that? Like, are you appealing to more like here's moderate Democrat positions that I think everybody would like, or I know that you guys think Democrats want to take your guns. I'm actually a little bit, moderate or to the right on that position. Like, how do you aim to like get more people voting for you, seeing that you have kind of such a hurdle to overcome to dethrone Bob?
Yeah, totally. And honestly, I think it's a combination of all three. Mm-hmm. So we really have to engage, especially young voters, and really ensure that these people are coming out more. And I think we need to do, registration drives to ensure that people are really voting. The reason that we started our campaign down here in Bowling Green is because we knew that we needed to get a lot of buy-in from the students at Bowling Green State University, which, has been a little tough, especially because we don't 100% know if all these kids are going to be coming back in November. I think that the plan is to have everyone come back, but I guess we'll see. I think we also need to engage people who haven't voted in the past. This district actually has a pretty low voter turnout percentage, around like 42%, where nationally it's normally around like 50. And I think that's because they just have not been listened to in so long. I think that we've run kind of weaker candidates on the Democratic side, and they've just been like, we're not inspired by these guys, and we really hate Bob Latta, so like I'm not even going to vote, like I don't care. So it really is important to engage and excite these kind of like apathetic voters.
Yeah.
I also think that there is a lot of voters, especially in kind of the suburbs, that are maybe a little bit more economically conservative but socially liberal, who are extremely turned off by the rhetoric that is coming out of the White House, and as well as Bob Latta. I think that these people are, pro-choice voters. I think that these people want to see like universal background checks on firearms. There's actually just a Quinnipiac poll that came out that said 80% of all Ohioans want to see universal background checks on firearms. And that's where my position is. I think it's extremely important to have, again, like you were saying, I don't want to take anyone's guns away, but I do think that we shouldn't be putting firearms in the hands of people, who aren't responsible to have them. And as well as, so, I think it's engaging and exciting younger, voters who haven't voted in the past, engaging apathetic voters who just feel that the process isn't made for them, and also flipping some of these, traditional Republican voters who are more socially liberal, who would, tend to gravitate to our campaign.
Yeah, I think that universal background checks, that's one that I think is like universally across the entire United States. I think most voters on both sides seem to be in favor of increasing that. You actually got over 50%, I think, of the votes in your primary, right? Like there were two other people running against you, and you guys were able to get over 50%. What do you think? What do you attribute most to that, like, victory? That's got to feel pretty good, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it feels great, and I think I was really proud of my whole entire team for putting in the work. We actually all got together and had a Zoom call to watch the results come in, which is kind of weird. This is the way that we have to do it right now. But it was fantastic to be with my team, who was kind of all throughout Ohio, and to just kind of celebrate the hard work that we've put in together. And I would attribute it to the hard work. I mean, I think that, what we saw was the areas that we knocked on doors, that we sent mail to, that we made phone calls. These were the precincts where we had the highest margins of victory. And I mean, I guess, of course, if you knock on someone's door and they know about you and they know your policy, like you're going to be more successful, but you also have to have a strong policy, and people actually have to believe in your ideas. So it was really encouraging to see that the people we talked to really liked what we were saying and then voted for us. So I think that the reason we won is because we outworked every other campaign. We raised more money, we knocked more doors, we made more phone calls, we sent out more mail, and we had policies that people really liked. And so I think that that's it right there. If you work hard and you have positions that people really resonate with, then you're going to win.
Cool. For people that are watching, because I'm sure I've got at least some people from Ohio here, what's like the best way to either donate to your campaign, or if they want to work with your campaign or something, like what's the best way to reach out to you? I know that you provided that link earlier, the donate one.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, my website is just my first and last name. So nickrubando.com. That's NICKRUBANDO. So nickrubando.com. And I mean, even if you're not in Ohio and you want to get involved, everything right now is virtual. So, we're virtual phone banks. We're doing postcard and letter writing campaigns. So if you're inspired by what we're doing here and you want to help out a swing state, we would greatly appreciate it. I mean, I know there's places in like New York and California and some other spots on the coast where you're like, oh, my area is so blue. Like I want to help out, but I don't really know how to get involved. Adopt a swing state. Look for a candidate that you're engaged in and excited by in an area that is trying to flip something blue. I highly recommend ours, but again, so you can go to nickrubando.com. You can get involved there. You can volunteer. There's a little area right on the right-hand side, a button that you can click that you can donate to if you want to donate. We're not accepting any corporate PAC money. We're completely funded by individuals. So we appreciate that. Like I was saying, sending out mail, making phone calls, having people on our staff, unfortunately, that's not free. So if we do want to win, we do have to raise money. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. Until we can get into the system and change the system, I mean, I would love to see publicly funded elections. But unfortunately, until we get in there and change the rules, we kind of have to play by the rules of the game. So are able to donate to help us out, we would greatly appreciate it. Your money is going to go to postcards, go to digital ads that we've been running, and go to paying our staff, which is, of course, really well needed right now, especially as everyone's kind of struggling with COVID-19.
Cool. What's your perspective pitch? So for people listening that are considering donating, or when you go to, somebody's door, you knock on the door, you've got like 5 minutes to chat them up. What are like the main key points that you give in regards to your campaign for things that you want to do, for who you are, for what you can accomplish?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest points, and it changes a little bit for if we're knocking on the door or giving a pitch to someone throughout the country, but a lot of us just want to see Donald Trump get out of office.
Sure.
No Republican has ever won the presidency without first winning Ohio. So if we flip Ohio, we will flip the country and Donald Trump will get out of office. And we are in a pivot district in this swing state. So if we want to flip Ohio, we have to flip Ohio's 5th district. And that's where we come in. And we're advocating for clean water. We're advocating for health care for all, and we're trying to get money out of politics so we can actually advocate for working class people. So if those are things that sound enticing to you, sound like, we can help you out, then vote for us, donate to us, volunteer for us, follow us on Twitter at Nick Rubando. This is how we can get out there, and we truly appreciate you giving us a platform so we can do that.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting. We have like 5 more minutes if you want. Is there anything else you want to bring up, or anything else you really want to talk about, or?
I don't know, man. You taking in any cool media during this quarantine?
What, what do you mean by cool media? I need you to be a little bit more specific.
Like TV shows, books, records.
Oh, I sit at my computer. I play video games all day, and then we argue politics all day. So like the entirety of the previous news cycle, which I'm sure actually must be frustrating for you guys, is all the coronavirus stuff, which is like dominating all the conversations, local, state, and federal and international at the moment for media. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but I also think that it really provides a pretty strong opportunity. A lot of what I heard when I talked about universal health care before COVID-19 was like, oh, I 100% agree with you, but like, I just don't think that we need to have a complete overhaul of the system right now. And, I understand where people are coming from there, but I think now we truly realize, like, no, we do need a complete overhaul of the system. I think COVID-19 has really laid bare some of the true irresponsibleness of our system and the way that we've created a broken system. And it's really highlighted many of the major problems that a lot of us have been talking about for a long time, but now you really can't ignore them anymore.
Yeah.
If there is one silver lining that comes out of this truly terrible situation, it's that I really hope that people become more involved and become more engaged and realize that it is so extremely important that like we have good leadership, because I think a lot of us are realizing right now, especially in other states where, people aren't able to apply for unemployment because their state government has made it almost impossible to go online and file for unemployment. Like who you elect.
Yeah, one of the things that scares me relating to the coronavirus stuff. So in my mind, I very much segregate like moral issues and then like political issues. I know they work together a lot, but just in looking at things from a raw political strategy point, I know that Trump very early on, well, not very early on, but some months into things, started to try to manage the expectations where he was saying, hey, if only 100 or 200,000 people die, we did pretty good, One of the things that I worry about the coronavirus stuff is it's such an opportunity for everybody politically that say we get to the end of things in like a month, like say people start to get healthy, people start to go out again. Maybe we only lost, I say only, but like 120, 130,000 people. I wonder if it's possible that people's spirits are so high coming out of it because they're back working and they're back outside and everything is good that people are just like, okay, whatever, we're back to normal. Vote for Trump. I don't care. Like, oh, I'm just glad that we made it. That would be something that would really worry me coming into the election season.
Yeah, and I completely understand where you're coming from, and I of course want to get back outside and want to return to life as normal. But, I think that we're all in for a bit of a shock that even when we do kind of reopen things and start going outside, that I don't even think we felt really the ramifications of what has occurred. I mean, we've seen 26 million people file for unemployment, and I don't even think that has really hit our economy yet or realized what's going to occur down the line. I think that we're still going to be feeling a lot of pain. And I also would say that, though, some areas have been hit harder than others, like I don't know too many people who don't know someone who has gotten sick or has died from this. And
Yeah.
I think that that's hard to forget.
Hmm.
You know, we're already looking at, I believe like 6 times more deaths than 9/11. And I'm not 100% sure if that is completely accurate, but I believe that that's the case. And I think that, you can, yeah, please look it up and check or fact check me there.
Oh, sure. No,
But
I was just making sure. I didn't know if way more people died during 9/11 than I thought, or because we're past like 20 or 30 times more. I was making sure I
yeah.
wasn't missing like another 7,000 people or something. But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think that that is going to again have like huge ripple effects on people, and who knows if this is going to come back again in the fall.
Hmm.
A lot of doctors and epidemiologists that I've talked to have said that be wary because like this could very well come back in the fall, and I don't know, who knows, man, who knows what's going to happen. I know 2 months ago I could have never anticipated that this would be the situation that we are in right now. So like I really have no idea what's going to happen 2 months from now. And I think that that's the hardest part for a lot of people is just the uncertainty.
Hmm.
Like people say that this is like the whole nation going through a big trauma, and like you can't really recover from a trauma until it's over. And no one really knows exactly when this is going to be over. And I think that's like the most trying part for so many people.
Hmm. Do you have a general opinion on any of the concessions the Democrats managed to secure for the recent like relief, or any comments on the payment protection plan, the PPP, the business loans that were the small business loans that went out recently? Do you have any thoughts or ideas on? Do you think it went far enough? Do you think the Democrats did all they could? Do you think anybody dropped the ball anywhere? Do you think it's overall positive?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think that we definitely need more relief bills passed, like 100%. The things that were passed are not enough. Like, I mean, plain and simple. And I think that the Democrats went into these negotiations fully anticipating that more bills would be passed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that extremely important what was pushed for to ensure that, $600 a week unemployment stipend on top of what states were giving. I think this was a huge thing that Democrats fought for, as well as ensuring that people who don't normally are eligible for unemployment received unemployment, whether those be gig workers or people who are self-employed. I think these are extremely important things that really helped people. Now, with that being said, I think that the implementation of a lot of these programs was problematic, especially with the PPP. Like, if you're a small business and you didn't already have a relationship with a banking institution, it was almost impossible to apply for one of these small business loans. So that's why we saw a lot of well-established companies really get these small business loans super easy, because they had they were real cushy with these bankers already, and they were able to fast track their loans and get that money. Whereas, a struggling small business who maybe doesn't have, hasn't taken out loans in the past, hasn't really have a great relationship with their banker, who might need the money right away and it might be extremely urgent, wasn't able to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think some things that are coming out of Congress right now, like especially like what Rashida Tlaib has just put forward, it seems extremely promising. One of my favorite things about her bill is that she actually proposes these prepaid debit cards that people can get as for like kind of the not totally universal basic income, but these cash payments can come out on prepaid debit cards. So that way people don't have to have established banking institutions, because there's a lot of people out there right now who don't have bank accounts. And so they weren't really able to even get that initial $1,200. And I mean, I still know people who haven't gotten their $1,200. And so I think that, Democrats did a lot to ensure that, people could get helped and that they could pass something so that we could get relief to people right away.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they realize that more needs to be done, and they're continuing to fight to get more relief bills out there. And, we're already seeing Mitch McConnell and Republicans dragging their feet and stalling this process and saying that they're not going to provide any more money for the economy, which is it's just shameful. You know, that we're really hurting right now, and we need to ensure that we're getting money to people who need it most. And to see Republicans dragging their feet so that they can, you know, hold up regulations for big corporations is just, it's absurd.
Or get their signatures on the checks, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, holding up checks so Donald Trump can write his signature on it, which he had to put in the memo line because, you know, it's illegal for him to actually sign the check because that's the department. So like it's absurd.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have a link to your, I know that your Twitter, and then the donation link, and then the link to your website should be under the YouTube video. And then I know people have been posting in the chat. I see a lot of pictures of you. People have been posting stuff just from your Twitter of you guys. I guess somewhat recently you did like where you were feeding children or homeless people or whatever. I had you in your mask with all the food in front of you on the table.
Oh yeah, there's an awesome organization here in Northwest Ohio called Connecting Kids to Meals. Yeah, because I mean, one of the unintended consequences of the shutting down schools is that children who rely on free or reduced lunches from their school are not able to get these.
Yeah.
Here in Toledo, in the Toledo public school system, 85% of the kids who go to Toledo public schools rely on free or reduced lunches. And so because they're not getting that food at school, they aren't able to get that food anywhere. So our campaign wanted to help out. We got in touch with Connecting Kids to Meals. They told us how we can hand out these free lunches to people. So it's amazing. You know, we've been going a couple days, a couple hours. We hand out over 200 lunches. It's an amazing opportunity to ensure that people in our community feel safe, feel healthy, and really are being taken care of.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, hey, yeah, man, I hope things go well for you. The localization of politics is like a big thing that's kind of been lost in America's political atmosphere, I guess. So it'd be cool to see if you were able to win just on like stressing that local involvement more from like versus like an absentee kind of congressman. Yeah. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us on this platform. I really appreciate you doing this. And yeah, I mean, all politics is local. So that's what we do right here.
Yeah, good luck, guys. I wish you guys the best. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe.
Yeah, see you later. Bye.
Bye.
All right, good job. We did that one. Plug his socials. Oh wait, what was his website? NickRubando.com was his website. I think people have been linking it in chat. There you go. Can donate. Work for him if you're in Ohio. Someone in chat said hot non-American take. Oh, the reason why I wasn't sure about the 9/11 thing is because I've heard some people say like 10,000 plus died as a result of 9/11. That might have been what that guy was referring to. Because some people will like attribute like the deaths of like firefighters or policemen afterwards to like disease or cancer. Some people will count those as part of like 9/11 deaths. So they'll say like, well, the actual number of people that died during 9/11 was much higher than just the 3,000 that died. I don't know if you remember that that video of Jon Stewart in front of that congressional committee or panel or whatever, where he was saying like, this is bullshit. Why aren't you guys funding these health bills for some of the 9/11 workers? Because so many of them are dying to diseases and whatnot. Oh, somebody posted hot take, non-American or hot non-American take. 9/11 was absolutely tragic, but not that many people actually died. I don't have the numbers offhand, but I'm pretty sure 9/11 was the largest single loss of life for multiple countries. Like, was Germany might have been one of them, and Canada might have been one of them. I don't remember exactly, but because there are so many different like nationalities of people in the World Trade Centers, that like it wasn't just the U.S.'s largest terrorist attack, but other people in other countries lost more people to a terrorist attack on that day than like in any other day in history. It was a pretty big meme. It was a pretty big terrorist attack. Did I miss something? Or did he super dodge the coal part of that union question? No, actually, I thought his take was reasonable there. That he was basically saying that there are a lot of fossil fuel workers or companies that are related to fossil fuel work, and the goal would be to retool those people so that they can get on board with green energy as well. I could have pushed him harder on like, well, what about the actual like coal workers that can't be retooled? What about the ones that can't make the new pipes? I'm still kind of feeling out. Listen, our goal, we just want to be nice, interview a lot of Congress people so that when I get into Congress, I can email and be like, hey, motherfucker, you're here. Time to come back and pay up. Now you're in Congress. I want that media. Come talk to me, right? That's the goal. So we just interview. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, but I mean, I'm not trying to be like ultra combative. I just don't have that. That's not the relationship that I have. Generally, when these people come, they usually kind of want to talk about their policies, kind of talk about who they are. I don't have like a general list. I need a general list of questions. I get scared sometimes. It's like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. But there's always like broad ones we got to talk to, or broad questions we're going to speak to. But when's the next one? I think in like 5 minutes. How many people in the U.S. actually don't have a bank account? That sounds so weird. Yeah, it does. It sounds really weird. But I remember back when I worked at the casino, I knew at least 2 coworkers that would go. I didn't even know that this was a thing because even when I was poor, I've always been like pretty technologically minded. But there are people that will go to like Walmart to cash a check from work. You go to I don't even know how it's possible actually because I've never done it before. But you can take your like paycheck. You can go to Walmart and somehow they can cash it for you for a pretty stupid fee. I think like it's pretty expensive to do it. I don't know how. I've never done it before, but I know that people would talk to each other about doing that or whatever. Like I had coworkers and shit that did that. So yeah, I know there are some people without. Dude, I remember as soon as was it around 2007, 2008, I think is when in Nebraska, employers started to switch over to direct deposit. That was like brand new fucking shit back then, at least in Nebraska. I don't know for the rest of the country, but yeah, as soon as that shit came out, I was like, direct deposit my shit, baby. But the dumb thing then about having electronic banking is that as soon as I... Okay, here's one of the dumbest things about... I don't know, okay, where are my fellow poors? My fellow poors in chat. One of the dumbest things when I was like super fucking broke is... does anybody have the trouble where you don't know how much money you have in your bank account, but you're too scared to check? It's super fucking irrational. But I remember thinking that a lot, especially towards like the end of the month as like the bills and shit were coming out. I was like, oh God, like I actually like, I couldn't bring myself like, I can't check my bank. Like I don't want to do it. And you'd like go out and be like, all right, fuck it. I'm gonna swipe my card. I hope it works. It might fucking bounce. Fuck it. Like, God damn it. Oh fuck. That was always like the dumbest shit. It's like $4 to cash a check at Walmart. Yeah, but like if you're getting paid back in my days, our minimum wage was I think $5.15 an hour. Okay, so if you work like 24 hours a week, okay, and then you get bi-weekly paychecks, okay, and then minus some taxes, right? If you're taking like a $220 check to Walmart and you're cashing it for $4, like. That's like 2% of your money just gone to like a Walmart tax. Like, fuck. Like, I don't know. Like, it's actually really hard to run trials on drugs that might actually work because when people go to sign up for the trials, nobody wants your random shit or drug.